Hello and welcome to A Conversation on the Daily Bern. I'm your host, Eric Miller, joined today by my first candidate for the year 2022, Aarika Rhodes. How you doing, Aarika?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time to talk with me. You're like I mentioned, you're running for 2022, and people might sort of, we're exhausted from this election cycle, but the thing is, there are special elections. You can never have a long enough runway when you're running, building up name recognition, getting momentum, getting resources, getting staffed up. So, good on you for running for 2022. I want to ask obviously about your platform and so forth. And it's a D+18 district. The incumbent is a Democrat, and we'll talk about where he gets his bribes from. But I guess the first thing is I noticed you worked on Andrew Yang's campaign. Can you talk about what about his campaign spoke to you, and then what inspired you to run?
Yeah. So first I was initially supporting Kamala Harris, and then I saw Andrew Yang on the Breakfast Club, and I was just completely blown away by his ideas and his approach to policy and kind of like his unifying message. And I was like, wow, this guy is really one to watch. And then when he was on The View, I was sold. I was like, okay, this is my candidate. This is who I'm going to be supporting. And then long story short, I went to a rally and just started getting really involved. And then next thing I know, I'm in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, all over California campaigning for him. And I just feel like his policies and who he is as a person and bringing people from all political parties together is what our country needs. And so that's how I got involved with Andrew Yang.
Right on. Yeah, and obviously he was famously known for sort of elevating the conversation around UBI, right? And that's in your platform.
Yes.
Democracy Dollars is in your platform. I think that came from him as well.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about just in the pandemic, especially, but just the benefits of UBI? Talk about why you support that and how that would benefit us, as citizenry.
Yeah, there's many reasons why I support a universal basic income. I actually think it is this pandemic kind of elevates the point of why we need it. So right now, I'll just refer to my district. We have thousands of people in Los Angeles, 60,000 people currently experiencing homelessness, and it's projected to increase by 20% because people have not been able to have be able to pay their bills. Small businesses are, unable to keep their staff on. And so when you have a universal basic income, it provides a safety net and a floor for people to stand on. And nobody should ever be unhoused. But that's to me is like a human right. And I also think it allows for innovation, allows one to take risks. I think that it helps with education in terms of, let's say I'm a single mom and I have a child that wants to play soccer. Now I have extra resources to put them in to additional programs. I could get tutoring, so I believe it's human-centered capitalism, and it's a direction that we need to go. And I spoke to many different economists who also say that it would have a profound impact on our economy at the local and national level. And so it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And with this pandemic, we have food bank lines that are just miles long. First time people going to the food bank, it would have prevented a lot of people from wiping out their savings and being on the brink of financial ruin that originally were on the brink. And so it's something that we need, and it would have been a lifesaver in this pandemic. And it's actually something Congress should be advocating for right now is the direct cash relief. The fact that that's not even in the bill is disheartening and irresponsible.
Yeah. Yeah, here. I think it was Pramila Jayapal maybe tweeted that it's not a stimulus check, it's a survival.
Yep, I saw that tweet.
Right? Yep. Mm-hmm. So accurate. I had a UBI advocate on a couple months ago, Scott Stanton's.
I love Scott.
Right. And boy, he succinctly framed UBI in a way that I don't think anybody could counter this point. He said, when you're playing the game of Monopoly and you go past go, you get $200. No one ever bitches about that $200. That's a UBI payment, right? No one ever says that's socialism. How are you going to pay for it, right? You just get $200 when you pass go. So let's just do that in life. Let's just have a UBI. Just get $200,
Absolutely.
or whatever it is, $2,000 a month or whatever, right? Yeah, so I maybe I didn't mention the district. It's California 30th, right? And you are an educator by profession.
Mhm.
And I'll pull up the district here in a minute, but I know you focus a lot on STEM in education and technology and so forth.
Mhm.
Can you talk about your background and your experience and what you're doing in that field?
Absolutely. So currently, I'm a fifth and sixth grade math and science teacher, and I have my master's in curriculum and instruction. And so my end game is actually to sit on the education committee in Congress to be a champion for education reform. I believe that we really need to update and modernize our education system to keep up with the times. Jobs are changing, skills are changing, and we need to make sure that our education system is evolving so kids are set up for success. I believe that investing in the next generation should take precedence right now. And so on my platform, I'm for universal preschool. I believe that when kids are able to read at an early age, they are set up for success for the trajectory of their education career, their academic career. I also am a big champion for financial literacy being taught in schools. I believe kids should not leave high school without having a solid foundation of finance. More and more kids, when I talk to them, they say that they want to have those life skills. They want to know the difference between a checking and a savings account, how to invest, the dangers of credit cards and interest rates, etc. And so it's essential that we advocate for that and we get that implemented. Also, I really, really, really want to advocate for vocational training. College is not for everyone.
Right.
And there's all these other careers that kids can go into and start making money without going to college. So I think we need life skill courses in schools, protecting and preserving the arts. And so those are the things that I feel that we need to prioritize. But my favorite thing, I have to say, that signature to me is my Kids Have a Voice 2 program. So as an elected official, I am committing to being invested in our public school system and giving kids a platform to express their ideas and the things that they care about. As a teacher, it's very frustrating when we write to our elected officials as a teacher, right? We never hear anything back. They have ideas that are just so phenomenal. And I think when they hear back, or if they were to hear back from their elected official, or if the elected official were to come to the classroom, I think it would have a profound impact and buy-in to our democracy. And so my Kids Have a Voice 2 program is something that I'm championing. I'm going to try to get other elected officials to put this on their platform and make sure that our kids know that their voices are heard and that they're listened to and that they're inspired to be citizens that will contribute to society.
Boy, that's so great. And you talk about those, home economics courses and financial literacy, civics, right? Simple civics, and like you're saying, to get them engaged early, to know what, how government works locally, federally, right? And getting them engaged. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Godspeed on that.
May I say one more thing really fast? Kids want to be involved. I believe kids want to be involved. I meet a number of kids that want to find out how they can be in their community. That there was one girl, this is actually on my platform because of her. She heard about me. She made a point to meet with me and argue why we should lower the voting age. And I was like, I will absolutely put that on my platform. So I think when we listen to kids and we allow them to justify their point and make the arguments, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised. And I think the earlier that they're invested in our democracy, the better off we're going to be, because they're going to understand the significance of voting. Look at Georgia. Right? Like, this is a do or die situation in terms of our Senate. So that's another reason why I'm a really, really passionate about my Kids Have a Voice 2 program.
Boy, that's fantastic. Wonderful. I want to pull up your website in a minute and the district map, but just one more thing on the education on STEM, right? There's part of obviously there's a racial and gender gap in that field, particularly. What's your goal to close that gap? How would you do that?
So as you know, I'm very, very passionate about math and science, and I do STEM, and I believe deeply in hands-on learning. And I think the way that we close that gap is to implement it. You can't close a gap if you're not teaching it. Right. So when we give teachers resources and we're putting so one thing, I'll just give you the context. So one thing I would love to do is give teachers a stipend at the beginning of the year so they can have the resources to be able to push a STEM education program, a curriculum in their classroom. But we have to start by giving the teachers resources. I know so many teachers that want to have these rich, rigorous, innovative type of curriculums, but there's just, for whatever reason, we're not setting teachers up for success. And that's something that we need to do. So to close the gap is to implement the curriculum and make sure that there's funding behind it. And so when teachers are set up for success, then kids are set up for success.
Right. Well, I love that too, the stipend side of it. I have a friend who has gotten grants from like a telecom company to do that. But that's, that you make a case and you get the grant, and you're blessed if you get it, of course. But a stipend would be guaranteed money year over year, right? And it would be a recurring investment versus, something you kind of won the lottery on, so to speak, right? So
I don't even know of anyone that's ever been like crazy inspired by a lecture. Like when I think of like my educational experiences is always when the teacher's hands-on, or when I'm on a field trip, or when they bring in like a guest speaker that shares and does something with their talent, right? So we need to make sure that our schools have the hands-on components for every lesson, every time, and field trip opportunities. And so when we think of education, we have to start making those meaningful connections to the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I want to, so it's California's 30th district, which is kind of like northwest of LA. I'm going to pull up the map here. I like to give people an opportunity to brag on their district. Were you born and raised here? Tell me what's great about California 30 and what should we know about it?
So I'm originally from Las Vegas, and I moved out to Los Angeles back in 2006. And CA-30 is actually I think people sleep on how magical this district is and what it can be with the right and new leadership. So our district actually has which I think is super cool, is a lot of really cool small businesses. Like, I'm a huge advocate for small businesses. So if you go down Ventura Boulevard, you will be like blown away by all these unique small business owners and this sense of community and, advocacy for, doing the right thing. So like when there's like an injustice or something, the city kind of comes together in support of something. So I think that's really cool. We have a lot of really neat landmarks. We have a lot of artists. One cool thing about my district, we have like a paint Sherman Oaks. So they paint like the utility boxes. Yesterday, literally, I was driving and one of the artists was like sitting there painting a little girl. And I actually posted it on my social media if you want to see her. Her name is Desi.
That's great.
And I think it's very family oriented. But the things that I feel like we're missing and what I want to do is really, really enhance the community feel. Like, I feel like people want to be connected, but because of COVID, that's kind of hindered it. But I do think that there's so many pockets where we can collab. And there's a unique part of our district where a lot of car enthusiasts live. And so I would love to try to bring that more to the forefront. I would love to work with local officials to bring more kid-driven, like another skate park to our district and stuff like that. So CA-30 is really cool, but I think we need new leadership to kind of add that little sparkle.
Right on. I love it. I love it. And Ventura Boulevard made famous in Tom Petty's Free Fallin' song, right?
Yeah.
So, when you think of CA-30, think of that song, right? Who doesn't love that song? I didn't mention at the beginning, but you don't take corporate PAC money, right? So no. You are a grassroots funded campaign. So It's ericaforcongress.com. Please come here and donate. If you can make a recurring donation, that goes a long way. Like I said at the top, early money makes a huge difference in some of these races, right? And you have a long runway, but it can never be too long, right? So, seed money, getting staffed up and so forth, the sooner you get involved in a campaign, the better, the more impact you can have. So please go like Aarika's page, aarikaforcongress.com. I'll mention it 10 more times before we go. But you can donate here, follow her socials, share this video, follow her on Twitter, retweet her, right? You have an awesome voice on Twitter. I've been following you for a bit.
Thank you.
And your policies are outlined here. Kids have a voice too, like you mentioned. You're doing this great fundraiser where you sell a bracelet. So go to Aarika's site and check her out. There it is, right? So, get in early and support her, before we get too much further down the road for 2022. And I'd love to have you back on in 2021. I'm going to support you through the end, right? So let's talk about who the incumbent is. So the incumbent is Brad Sherman, and he's mixed bag, right? But he certainly takes bribes from defense contractors, Blackstone, BlackRock, whatever else, right? All the sort of villainous weapons manufacturers and so forth. He's hawkish. He takes the pro-Israel, PAC money and so forth. But it is a safe Democratic district, right? So if you are progressive, or even left-leaning in that district, you should want the fightingest fighter you can get, which would be Aarika more than Brad. But off of my soapbox, what about him is lackluster, or how would you be better, let's say?
I think my leadership style is very different. I think a leader's present. A leader is visible and accessible. And so I'll just put it like this. I saw an injustice when COVID happened. I saw kids that have resources to be able to do online learning, and George Floyd was murdered. And I could have waited. I could have waited for the political time to jump in a race. No, there was an injustice. The leader wasn't doing anything, so I'll be a leader. And so that's why I initially filed.
Well, can I interrupt? So what wasn't he doing? Give one of those examples. How was he absent?
Exactly. Like, we didn't hear anything. There was no advocacy for these resources. When you are an elected official, you have a platform that we see some elected officials that they utilize their platform for the greater good of their community. When you have a platform and you're not even using it to leverage and help uplift your community, that's a problem. We're in a pandemic and you're not even advocating for direct cash relief. We had the census. You were not making sure that people filled out the census when you know that's going to bring money to the district. That's not leadership. That's being complacent. And that's actually like, I deserve this seat. I'm entitled to the seat. No, you have to earn that seat. And he's not earning the seat anymore. Just thinking that, it's democratic, that's not good enough anymore. We have an increase in homelessness. I'm literally under bridges every single day talking to people, working with my local organizations to make sure that they're fed. And he's doing nothing. And so when I say I'm going to be a different leader, it's literally being present. It's going to be leading by example, highlighting the beautiful parts of our district, making sure that our kids have everything that they need to be successful. We have 6,000 people currently, it might be higher, but currently from the last time I checked, we have about 6,000 people experiencing homelessness, and 2,000 of them are children. Yeah. How can you be an elected official and not be irate about that? One person is too many, in my opinion. And so when I say that there's failure, that's the failure. And so he doesn't deserve that seat anymore. And I don't run my campaign talking about his lack of vision. I run my campaign talking about the vision that I'm creating for CA-30. And this vision is inclusive. It's innovative. It's cutting edge. It makes sure that everybody has a floor to stand on, that everyone feels a part of it. It's not even right or left. It's up and down. Everyone deserves to live a dignified life, and it's just decreasing under this leadership style, and I'm sick of it. And so I'm a teacher. I threw my hat in the race because I can. I'm a citizen, and we are going to get to Washington, and we're going to get real change. And I'm relentless about this.
Love it. I love it. I do want to ask you a little bit of challenge you a little bit on one policy, right? So, Ben Sherman had supported Medicare for all at one point, and then he backed off of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And according to your website, you're a public option candidate. You're not a full-throated Medicare. Am I reading that right? And if so,
right.
So why not full-on Medicare for all, especially during a pandemic?
That's the thing it's so funny that you bring that up. So initially that's the healthcare option that I was advocating for. And then as I have been in my community, as I'm talking to people, it's not good enough. And I'm the kind of person, I listen to my community, I'm looking at the needs, and we do need a Medicare for all. So we're actually in the process of updating our website to a Medicare for all, because if we're going to go to the negotiating table, we have to go with the biggest, boldest solutions that are going to help people. And initially I was thinking of it more of like bipartisanship. We want to just keep expanding to just get as many people covered, but it's not good enough. The price gouging on our prescriptions. And, when we think of, when we think of like the rest of the world, right? Like Europe and how they're using the single payer system, it is more effective. And so we're actually working really, really hard to revamp our approach on healthcare. And by the first of the year, it will be completely changed, because I will always do what's in the best interest of my district.
God, I love that. When I read through your policies, I was like, check, 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 check. And then I saw that and I was like, ooh, she's going to move on that. Right. So, I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. So, especially morally, right. You made the case for it right there, but just morally, and during a pandemic to fight against everyone having guaranteed healthcare I just see it as immoral. Right. So that's a clear differentiator between you and the incumbent. Absolutely. Very good. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned George Floyd. Talk about your position on police reform and some of the planks that you have in your policy platform.
Yeah, I believe we need to re-envision our policing. Obviously nobody should ever be treated the way that George Floyd, like that was a murder. What happened to Breonna Taylor was an injustice. So I've definitely been protesting with people in my community. I ran a protest at the very beginning. It's what inspired me to run, along with the education disparities. So I believe that we need to reevaluate our policing. I believe that we need to reallocate money to after-school programs, make sure that police have a relationship with people in the community. That's really, really important. We're in a unique time because while we're advocating, we also, and this is just currently, I started thinking about this more deeply, we have to slowly start to build this bridge back and build the trust back, because there is no trust. Yeah. I have, there's an organization in my community that literally peacefully protests every single day. And, when we see that, we need to really hear what people are asking for, and we need to do the moral thing and make sure that nobody is treated unfairly. And we also need to look at our just prison reform in general, like for-profit prison, the education to prison pipeline needs to be closed, right? So I definitely will be advocating for all of these progressive approaches to policing.
Great. And that includes like a citizen review board.
And sorry, and one thing I really want is a national database where we can monitor and, police officers. So, for example, we have one database and national standards that police have to abide by. Then when there is an incident that happens, then we can step in as the federal government and say, you didn't meet the national standards, and remove it. And we need qualified immunity. We have to be able to remove police officers that are not doing their job, and they shouldn't have the right to serve our communities.
Right on. Yeah. And there would be due process. It would be, it would be citizen oversight. Like you said, it wouldn't, it's, there might be some remediation, but accountability at the end of the day where there currently is none. You talk about ending qualified immunity, which, is kind of a no-brainer, increasing funding to mental health resources. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
So it's funny because I literally was at a coffee shop and I was talking to two police officers, and there's a gentleman, unfortunately, that's unhoused in my neighborhood. And I was talking to him about, how can we get him resources? And long story short, we ended up having this thoughtful conversation about, mental health, and that police officers shouldn't always be the first call. It's just a situational thing, right? And then sure enough, we go to where this gentleman was, and he wasn't even willing to talk to him. He wasn't willing. He just assumed it was going to be the worst case scenario. And we can't help people if there's this persona that police officers are all bad. So I think sending out, a healthcare worker, like when we dispatch for different situations is going to be more helpful. But actually, I was watching and reading about Texas. I think it was in Texas that implemented this new program. I want to say it started in Oregon. I could be wrong on the states, but they started this new program where now mental health workers are going out and addressing some of these problems that police officers don't need to be addressing. And they're seeing positive results as a result of implementing this. And I would love to bring that over to our district.
Yeah, and not only that, but nationwide. I think it's Seattle, the one you're talking about. Yeah,
Seattle. It was Seattle.
That's exactly how it should be, right? Incredible. I, as an educator for young kids, you obviously, you support common sense gun legislation,
Absolutely.
right? Gun violence prevention, right? Moms Demand Action, every town, you're on board with all of that stuff. Can you talk about that firsthand? Like, share, what does that look like as a teacher of elementary school kids? I'm assuming you do active shooter drills. And to me, we're terrorizing a generation. Can you talk about that from a firsthand perspective?
Absolutely. So when Sandy Hook happened, that was probably one of the saddest days in my career, because parents came to school that day differently. They hugged their kids. They were in tears. It was so, like, I'm already getting chills. Like, I'm literally getting chills. Like that, I will never forget how parents picked their kids up. And that should have been the moment where we passed gun legislation, in that moment, because it was horrific. And we've had so many more cases ever since then. And so I absolutely believe in common sense gun reform. And I actually think that needs to be a priority. Once we get out of the pandemic, I think obviously we need to pass the stimulus and things of that nature right now, but gun reform needs to be on the table with the Biden administration. And I don't like the active shooter drills. I've had kids cry, and one time one of the kids didn't even hear that it was a drill. They thought it was a real scenario and they freaked out. And so that's not okay. That's not okay. Kids should be able to come to school, feel safe, and feel like it's the best learning environment. And parents should be able to pick their kids up from school, knowing that their kids are going to be alive when at the end of the day. And so I am relentless about this, and I'm committed to making sure that we have gun legislation that is comprehensive and really, really attack this with great passion, because we need the reform.
Great. Yeah. What is, not to dig into that too much deeper, but what is that? I've never experienced that, right? Like I say, I'm just assuming you said you've had kids cry, the one that didn't know it was a drill, right? How do they process that? What's the effect on the kids during that, after that, the drills?
So it happened, we said, okay, guys, we're going to have a lockdown drill. And we sent them to the area in which they were designated to go to. Like, each kid has like a place where they're supposed to go in the classroom. And she didn't hear that it was a drill. She thought it was really happening. And she just burst into tears, and we're like, no, it's a drill. This is not real. Like, within that moment, like, we're like, no, she's like, and she just started breathing hard, and we had to calm her down, and we had to have that conversation. And luckily, the school that I work at, we have a school counselor. And so we reached out and had that conversation. But we should have ever had the conversation. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so it was, we have to talk them through that, obviously follow up with parents and make sure that they understand, but it is traumatizing and the kids are paying attention. I think as adults, sometimes we forget that even like with like this last election cycle with Trump, you know, they're paying attention, they're listening, they're hearing these conversations. They know when when the Parkland shooting happened. And so we're forced to have these conversations about like life or death conversations. And when you have to say like listening to your teacher will save your life, that's essentially what it is like listening to your teacher is going to save your life. And teachers, what I don't think the public really understands is that teachers are so devoted to their classroom and their students that they will put their life on the line for their students. And that's why teachers are so important and deserve to get paid more. And they're just so devoted, they're just so committed. And so what we're asking of teachers and the way our schools are set up, it should just really be about learning. And so that's why we need this reform. It's urgent.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't even begin to put, wrap your head around the long-term effects of that trauma that we're, willfully inflicting on these kids across the country.
Well, especially the kids that had it happen at their school.
Of course.
Like that's where it's really, traumatic is when it actually happens at their school.
Yeah.
Can I just bring up an example? Marco Rubio really pissed me off.
Oh
so when the kids great that he went, but when Cam Caskey was saying, like, can you stop taking NRA money? We will donate to your campaign. He couldn't even look at me. Like, how do you have a kid look you in the eye and say, protect us, and you ignore that? You don't deserve to be an elected official. I will never forget that exchange between the two. That's the problem, is our elected officials are getting money from these organizations that don't have their best interest at heart. And he doesn't need it. He literally said, we can all, I remember when he said that, he was like, we can all donate to your campaign. And he still wouldn't even budge.
Right.
Vote him out. He's about to come up. Vote him out.
Yes. You need to go run for Senate in Florida, right? It's what a great moment that was. That was, Emma Gonzalez did that. In my opening thing, I have a shot from the March for Our Lives that I took. I was there in DC when Emma did those moments of silence. And it was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced. I will never forget that. And, that also goes to that kids have a voice too thing that you're talking about, because, they have a perspective on that you and I are imagining, right? Or we're, you're seeing it way more firsthand than I am, but they're seeing it, they're feeling it, they're living it, right? So, that's those movements like Sunrise Movement, March for Our Lives, these younger voices, let's lower the voting age. These things, this is their world, right? Let's give them that power, right? They're the ones.
And I had a kid that said, you're making this. I actually recently did a webinar with kids right before the election to get their perspective. And, one of the kids said, you guys are making decisions that impact me. You don't have to live within the environment 50 years from now. I do.
Right.
I do. So let me have a say in that. Yeah. And I was like, oof. Because it's so true. And I think when you really listen, when kids are talking to you and you're not coming from a place of judging, oh, they're your kid, they're just, but you're really listening, there's wisdom embedded in what they're saying. It's quite impressive, actually, that some of these kids are more knowledgeable than adults that I know. They're more passionate than adults that I know. And so it would be unwise to not give them a platform and to hear where they're coming from. This is their country too, and they deserve it.
Here. Yeah, they're globe too. And they're more optimistic, they're more idealistic. Mm-hmm. And what's wrong with either of those things, right? In terms of problem solving, right? So again,
and not one more thing, let's not forget what the kids did with the Trump rally, right? They got all those tickets and Trump goes to the rally. That was kids that did that. That's organizing, strategizing, problem solving, using social media in innovative ways. Like, clap it up for them. That was really cool.
Yeah. I probably have claimed a few tickets to Trump rallies that I never attended, full disclosure. So I'm going to mention your website again. It's ericaforcongress.com. please make a donation. I'm assuming there's mechanisms in there people can reach out, volunteer. It's probably early to be doing a lot of phone banking and so forth, but get out in terms of getting out the vote and so forth. But the election is 2022. We don't even have. Do you have a date on that yet?
There's a tentative date. It's subject to change, so I'm not going to announce what that date is. But yeah.
Right on. Is there any other ways that people can help?
I think, keeping up with our campaigns, especially if you're watching this and you happen to live in San Fernando Valley, we do a lot of that, not right now, but we are going to be doing a lot of community events and showing up and telling people. That's really important because I want my campaign to be community driven, people driven. I don't want it's not like money is fantastic, but moral support and showing up is also important because I really believe that to have real change, impactful change is a mass movement. It's not just one person that makes a difference. It's a group of people. So we're doing an event that's advocating for, let's say, gun reform, right? It's advantageous to have a lot of people, if it's safe to do so, to show up for that. Or to retweet or to kind of re-stress the points that we're making if it was for universal basic income. So I think that's a huge way of helping is just showing up and telling people in the district about my campaign.
Awesome. And come back throughout 2021. Right? Yeah, I'd love to have you back, obviously, many times before we get to 2022. I think and I love what you're talking about, community organizing and connectivity. Ro Khanna, one of the great things about the great Ro Khanna, I think he's in the 27th, just below you or whatever. Like he has monthly town halls. Obviously, it's virtual now that he's, we have the pandemic, but he every month would make a point to go there and shake hands with people and answer questions and face the constituents. Whereas other candidates, other incumbents, Brad Sherman, has been in there for 10 years, something like that, 8-10 years, right? I don't know if he has town halls. I'm gonna wager he does not.
He's had town halls.
Okay.
I think, but to differentiate us. So when I have a town hall, I'm going to listen to all constituents, not just ones that agree with me, because I believe everybody deserves to be heard. There's a group of guys that eat at a local donut shop in my district, and there are Republican, and they actually said, we tried to give him the benefit of the doubt because we want to be invested in our community. But when we went, the second we said something that he disagreed with, we got yelled at. We never wanted to go back. And I want to say I'm going to be a leader for everyone, regardless of where you stand politically. And we were having this, this is kind of like this back and forth about rent control. And, he actually was blown away that I took the time to go back and study, a subsidy legislation that we could potentially pass to kind of look at landlords' position on it too. And he's like, I still don't agree with you, but the fact that you heard what I said, you went back and studied, you came back with a potential solution I still don't agree with, I will support your campaign because that's what elected officials are supposed to do. They're supposed to hear everyone. And so when I'm elected and I have town halls, everyone's voice will be heard.
Cool. Awesome. And now that you mention it, Brad Sherman, didn't he have wasn't there a thing where someone in his office had a sexual harassment thing and he got a question and they cut it out or some shenanigans like that? So yes. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I remember him now.
Yeah. And he's also, I believe, from my understanding, and out of all the members in Congress, he's the second highest with staff turnover.
Great. That's always a good sign. Positive sign, right? Yeah, so it's ericaforcongress.com. Like I said, I'd love to have you back on. I want to close with one of your first campaign videos here, and it's got your parents and students singing your praises, and it's the sweetest thing. So please go make a donation. Go like Aarika's pages, her socials. Share this video. Tell your friends, anyone in CA-30, let them know. The earlier we get involved in a campaign, the more beneficial it can be, right? So, it's not too soon. I know we're all exhausted from 2020 and whatever, but there are races happening and they are consequential, and this is a big one, right? So, this could be another Medicare for All voter. This could be another UBI vote in the House, in 2022. So let's do what we can to get Aarika across the finish line. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me, Aarika.
Thank you
You're
so
awesome.
much.
You're a superstar. I can't wait to talk to you again and then ultimately call you Representative Rhodes. That'll be awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric.
Thank you. I'm going to close out on this video. Stay safe, Aarika. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
My name is Aarika Rhodes, and I'm excited to announce that I am running for Congress in California's Congressional District 30. People are worried about the homeless crisis, affordable housing, healthcare, the environment, and education. We need to invest in our small businesses, our infrastructure, and our schools. It is time to create a movement to empower our communities and care for our neighbors.
Hi, Aarika. Your mom and dad. You make us proud.
Aarika, you are hardworking.
You got the empathy.
There's no one more dedicated.
Your energy is second to none.
You got the intellect.
You are a change maker at our school.
And you got this.
Go get them, girl.
So proud of you. You are such an amazing teacher and leader.
So happy you decided to run for Congress.
For 2022.
We love you.
I'm wishing you the best of luck as you run for Congress.
Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck, Aarika.
Please contribute to my campaign so we can achieve this goal together.